on Bombshell, the betting unicorn, John Buckets. Hey, Buckets, how the fuck are you doing, man?
Ian, I am fucking exhausted right now. That's right, an F-bomb before the first minute of the show. I was up until 7 a.m. this morning. I have a sick dog who has been having these squirts since about midnight. I'm talking about you, Freya, and I had to stay awake with her to get her outside or the apartment would have been ruined. So if I'm a little bit slap happy, if I'm a little bit maybe over the top today, IPJ, just bear with me. But I promise the bets were done before the lack of sleep.
Well, we got you to curse immediately, so we know you've overslept for some reason. You've either overslept or underslept. Something's going on in your life. You weren't a part of the last show. We had to bring in a substitute, so Hot Cocoa came in, stepped in, and actually did a pretty good job, even though her bet didn't hit. We'll discuss that in just a minute. Where were you? Why were you not a part of the last episode? The loyal listeners have been asking.
Oh, they've been asking. I was actually just with family, taking some time with the parents. My grandma had passed away last year, and we were doing the spreading of her ashes this weekend. Honestly, a really good moment and great time with the family there. But some days you just got to turn off. You know, there's a lot of betting going on constantly. We got to take little breaks now and then because how hard we work, IPJ. Sometimes it can be a bit much.
Yeah, there you have it, everybody. Please remember, Buckets is still human after all. He has feelings, he has emotions, and I'm proud of you for taking that break and spending some time with family. I'd like to apologize very quickly to Mama Buckets for Buckets' language at the top of the show. Hot Coco's been leading the way on socials once again. TikTok and Instagram Reels are up once again. It's very impressive. It's been a good week of content again from her. Go follow her on Instagram account and follow our accounts across social media platforms as well. TikTok, Instagram, we're putting bets out on there every single day. We're also putting obviously bets on the shorts. Producer Jeff is creating his magic with those YouTube shorts, which are absolutely blowing up, and we're really excited about the numbers. Bucket subscribers have gone through the roof. Producer Jeff has been sending me all the numbers. We have had a record week. Champions League has helped, but then obviously you weren't a part of the last show except for bringing your bets. But we had a fucking weekend when it came to the betting. And I'm going to start with you, Buckets, because on your run this past weekend, including Sunday, you were unfucking believable. Was it 13-3 you went?
Yeah, yesterday was a 13-3 day, and a lot of that was just live betting. Like, we had some good pre-match plays. Obviously, we cashed the big one with Marseille, but we had a little bit of fun yesterday. I'm telling you, man, sometimes when you're just in the groove, it's like you can't miss. About half of those bets hit in stoppage time, too. It's the 88th minute. People are starting to complain and get restless on Twitter, and then all of a sudden, in the 90 plus 4th minute, there's the goal. Wait until the final whistle, people. Don't tweet me dumb shit because I'm just going to block you, and you're going to miss out, Ian, on streaks like this that you and I have, frankly, kind of a weird amount, it feels like.
Yeah, well, we did text with each other, obviously very happy because I also had a very good weekend on my betting front. The Dub Club has stepped up its game most recently, which I'm very impressed with as well. I actually want to talk about that Manchester City Arsenal bet real quickly because what I put out there was a bunch of bets. And normally I'm not like you, Buckets. I don't put a million bets. I don't obviously go crazy when it comes to the bets, but I like to put the work in when it comes to these big games. Obviously in that Manchester City game, I hit a few, which was pretty nice. There was some long shots that missed, which were unfortunate. But then I also had some very good live betting. Brighton against Nottingham Forest had Brighton team total over 1.5 goals. Team total, it was minus 130 live. Of course, that game was pretty crazy. Brighton got a couple of goals at the end. I was on the Monza Bologna game as well. This was a bit more of a long shot, anytime goal score. Buckets plus 300. Santiago Castro impressed me greatly when it came to the Champions League, even though he didn't score. I thought, wow, what a player. This guy is making some great runs. He scored in stoppage time to win that game at plus 300. Cash a ticket. And then I had a small parlay. Monaco and Le Havre was 1-1. Leverkusen 0-0 against Wolfsburg. I was on Monaco moneyline and Wolfsburg over 0.5 just to get a single goal. It was plus 144. Of course, that Leverkusen-Wolfsburg game was insane. Leverkusen once again scoring a goal in stoppage time to win 4-3. Monaco had a convincing victory over Le Havre to cash that ticket. Buckets, it's been a crazy weekend of betting, and I think people need to start to understand it's not just stoppage time where they can get their picks.
No, you can get your picks anywhere that IPJ and I are involved in. If you check out his Dub Club, he does a tremendous job not just providing bets, but providing information, whereas I'm less on the information and more just rapid fire. If I'm sitting in front of my computer and I see something that's tasty, I put it out, and sometimes we don't even have time to explain it because live bets can hit that fast. But also, Hot Cocoa, as Ian mentioned, is crushing it on the socials. We got you on Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, not OnlyFans yet, but Jeff, we might be working on that behind the scenes. Who knows? But man, we're just having fun, and it's showing. It's showing that we're having a good time right now.
Do you think producer Jeff has an OnlyFans?
I don't know, Jeff. If you want to take a second right now, Jeff, and plug your OnlyFans, feel free to do so at the top there. But I'm not sure about that.
Speaking of OnlyFans, let's turn to Hot Cocoa. Messi, her bet was a bit disappointing because the bet was a bit messy when it came to Inter Miami. We were at the game, Buckets, and before we get into discussing the game and Hot Cocoa missing her bet, take a look at our day. I took the family to watch the game at Yankee Stadium, and Hot Cocoa put this together for social media. Check this out.
Messi kid.
And that's about it. Obviously, you can see me and Bucket's heads bobbing, and I'm sure you're listening to different music for copyright reasons. We can't play the music that Hot Cocoa picked. But at the same time, I'm sure producer Jeff will get some good music there that will go with our rocking heads. Buckets, our bet missed, of course, into Miami. We're leading by 1-0 until the 97th minute when James Sands scored his equalizing goal, his very first ever Major League Soccer goal to finish 1-1. I was incredibly happy that NYCFC didn't lose that game. But what I'm going to tell you, Buckets, might surprise you. The game was shit, and Lionel Messi was also shit, and I was very disappointed with the whole thing.
No, that's fair. I mean, you and I talked about this game a lot. We talked about the weird line movement that Miami had moved to plus 200 before kickoff, and we really couldn't find a reason why. But apparently, the books knew what they were doing. But IPJ, I just got to say this, out of respect to Hot Cocoa, I feel like you can't bet against NYCFC, specifically if you're at the game. If you're not there, NYCFC, bet on them to lose by 30. I don't care. But when you're there, something's different about that squad. And we saw that with that stoppage time equalizer.
Yeah, something's very different. You know, every time we've been at the stadium, they've never lost a game. Just going to throw that out there this season. This was actually the first draw I think we've witnessed this season as well, which is absolutely crazy. But they did get a stoppage time equalizer, which was great. And it doesn't bode well for Inter Miami, because I'm going to throw this out there. You guys have been debating. You and producer Jeff have been discussing. Obviously, we went through it on the last episode of the previous one. You were here, Buckets, about Columbus and Inter Miami. I can tell you right now, watching Inter Miami in person, they're not that good. They're just not that good. If you were to compare teams and quality of teams as far as team chemistry, team spirit, Columbus are by far the best team in Major League Soccer right now. And there wasn't this cohesion when it came to Inter Miami. You have the superstar Suarez who runs and works hard. You have Messi who tries to make magic happen. You've got obviously a Campagna who came off the bench and scored the goal that looked like it was going to be the winner. But they are vulnerable all across the field, and certainly a lot of complaining towards the direction of the referee as well. So needless to say, Hot Cocoa was disappointed at the game that a bet didn't hit. And a word of advice, bet responsibly, everybody, because Hot Cocoa didn't this weekend and lost a few units. Coming up on today's show, we got a betting heavy show once again. We're not going to waste much time because Buckets, it is time to get back into Buckets hitting the bedtime.
The bedtime.
Big time, if I can say it. Back to bed.
Bedtime.
You know, it wouldn't be an episode of Stoppage Time if we didn't get you some wagers from our betting expert, John Bucketsheimer. Hey, Buckets, I'm looking for multiple bets for you. I'm looking for a bet from each day, from Tuesday all the way through Sunday. I think I'm going to go through, actually. I'm not going to go through Monday. I'm going to go through Sunday if I can get my words out. You can't hide this week, Buckets, because I'm going to challenge you. The listeners expect all of the action. Let's go to some big games that are coming up on Tuesday. We'll begin right there, Buckets, and just have a quick look at the schedule of games. Obviously, in the Spanish La Liga, we've got Sevilla against Real Valladolid. We've got Valencia against Osasuna, and then we've got Real Madrid back in action against Deportivo Alaves. In the English EFL Cup, Wimbledon against Newcastle. Not sure if that game's going to go ahead now because the state of the Wimbledon pitch was dreadful. And then we've got Chelsea against Barrow, Manchester City against Watford, which will be a good game. Also against Leicester, Wickham against Aston Villa. Coppa Italia also takes place as well on Tuesday. Lecce against Sassuolo, Cagliari against Cremonese, and Torino against Empoli. But we did leave it open for Buckets to go anywhere he likes, so give us your best bet for Tuesday.
For once, I'm actually sticking with one of the big leagues. I know you always say these amazing big matchups, and then I go, hey, let's talk about Kazakhstan Premier League. But no, this time I'm sticking with La Liga because, oh man, do I love that matchup between Valencia and Osasuna there. Because right now, we are getting lines for last year's La Liga numbers. Both teams to score in this fixture is plus 110. Both teams to score in this fixture should never be plus 110 when you have two of the worst defensive units in Spain going head to head. Valencia is 19th on the table out of 20, already finding themselves in a little bit of a relegation tussle here with only 4 points in 6 games, 5 goals scored, 10 conceded. Not a good offense and even worse defense. But when you look at Osasuna, who is 7th on the table, yes, they're doing a little bit bigger or better. They're finding some points here, but 8 goals scored and 11 conceded, conceding almost 2 goals per match right now. Both of these teams are just dreadful. And if you look at the head-to-head and recent history, it's not much better. Both teams to score has hit in 6 of the last 8 matchups between these sides. Over 2.5 goals has hit in 5 of the last 7. Both teams to score has hit in Osasuna specifically in 80% of their last 10 fixtures. Ian, these are two teams that are playing almost a Bundesliga style of football to where it's, hey, we know we're going to concede, so it's going to take 2 or 3 to win. Let's just go for it. Plus 110 is ridiculous, frankly, because I would have given out the same bet at minus 130.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy considering I've not played many games already. 19th place Valencia going up against Osasuna, who are in 7th place right now and chasing a European spot so early on in the campaign is probably not realistic at the end. Obviously, 6 defeats between the two of them, Valencia having 4 of them. Average goals per match. I am impressed with Osasuna. 1.33 goals per game scored on average. 1.83 goals conceded per game average for Osasuna. So that bodes well for Buckets. And as he pointed out there, Valencia biggest problem is scoring goals so far this season, but at home you would certainly favour them. Both teams have had only 1 clean sheet to their name, and both teams have been involved in big victories and big losses. Valencia 2-0 win over Girona is their biggest win of the season, and a 3-0 loss at Atletico Madrid is their biggest defeat of the season for Osasuna. 3-2 win against Celta Vigo and a 4-0 loss against Girona. So goals galore involved in pretty much all of these games. The midweek games always interest me greatly, but Osasuna off to a great start, just the 2 defeats, but 11 goals conceded. That's where it gets really interesting to me, Buckets, and I really do think you're on to a winner there. Let's go to Wednesday's games, and Wednesday we've got Europa League coming back into action on a Wednesday. Let me repeat myself. Europa League is on action on Wednesday. I will, of course, be in the CBS Sports Network studios, Galazzo Network studios, but I will be on CBS Sports Network for some of the Europa League action and the Carabao Cup action, so make sure you tune in. Buckets, on Europa League, we've got some big games to look forward to as well. There's one that maybe sticks out to me as Galatasaray against PAOK. Obviously, just had the big derby most recently for Galatasaray, and Manchester United against Twente. Nice against Real Sociedad is not a bad game to look forward to as well. There is, of course, Spanish La Liga, because apparently they play on every single day of the week. La Liga now, Girona against Rayo Vallecano, and Barcelona back in action against Getafe. That one's quite interesting, this Barcelona one, because Ter Stegen just went down with a serious injury. This is their goalkeeper. Remember, Barcelona looking pretty at the top of the table right now. Ter Stegen went out with a fractured patella tendon, and it looked horrific. He was screaming on the field. Not nice to see at all. English EFL Cup, Arsenal against Bolton, Liverpool against West Ham, just to name a few of the games, Buckets. And I'm wondering where the fuck you're going.
You know I got to go to the Europa League, one of my favorite competitions, and historically one of my most profitable competitions, Ian, across all betting platforms here. And I'm going with 2 bets, actually, but on the same fixture here. I'm looking at the big one for me, which is Midtjylland, the Danish side, hosting Hoffenheim. And I'm doing something that I've done a few times on the show. Midtjylland over 1.5 team total at plus 100, and Hoffenheim over 1.5 team total, which is also plus 100. So as long as either team scores 2 goals here, we're at least breaking even. But when you look at how these teams play, their style of football, and just their recent history and their scores, these are 2 teams that just don't give a fuck about defense. I've got to swear twice on the show to really emphasize how horrendous the defense is in these fixtures. Midtjylland's last fixtures, these are just the score lines. 2-2, 4-1, 2-1, 3-1, 3-2, 3-3, 1-1. Both teams to score hitting in every single one of their last 9 matches. Meanwhile, Hoffenheim pretty much doing the same thing in Germany right now. 2-1, 4-1, 3-1, 3-2, 2-2. 2 teams that just know that they can't keep clean sheets, so they're not even going to pretend that they can. If you want to take both teams to score in over 2.5, that might be safer. But Hoffenheim on the road is a little bit scary in these European fixtures, and Midtjylland against anyone outside of Denmark will even try to play defense here, Ian. I would not be shocked, quote me on this one, Jeff, if we saw 5 or 6 goals in this fixture as well.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. You're a bit surprised right now with the way that Hoffenheim has started the season. 4 games played, 1 victory, 0 draws, and 3 games lost. 6 goals scored, 11 goals conceded. That's pretty interesting to me because normally they're a very good side, but their last 3 matches, if you look at the goals they've conceded, 3 against Frankfurt away from home. They conceded 4 at home against Leverkusen, which is not an embarrassment. They are the champions. But then they just conceded 2 against Union Berlin away from home. They can't win a game right now. They did win in the DFB Pokal, obviously, to begin the season, but they're really, really poor as far as like quality goes. I don't see where the goals come from. They had that victory against Holstein Kiel, 3 goals to 2 at home, but away from home. And the only thing is, I'm going to say, Buckets, is they got to go for it. And in Europa League right now, you can't sit back and relax and rest. You've got to absolutely go for your performances because it's very, very important that you get off to a great start. Let's not forget, it's a completely different format also for the Europa League now. And their game's coming up. They have that massive game against Midtjylland where they need to win. So I do believe they get 2 goals in that game. And Midtjylland are a crazy team. But then they've got Dynamo Kiev at home. Then they've got Porto away. Then they've got Lyon at home. Then they're away to Braga. Then they're at home to Steaua Bucharest before they play Tottenham and finish off against Anderlecht. That is a crazy, crazy group for someone like Hoffenheim to actually be involved in. So I love this bet, Buckets. So how do you play this one? Just give everybody advice here. You play a unit on both, or do you play half a unit on each of them?
For one like this, where I know that one, as long as one hits, I go even, I'm actually going to play a full unit on both of these. So I will have 2 units risked in this match, understanding that if either side scored 2, I'm okay going even on this one. Ideally, both hit, but if Midtjylland is up 2-0 or Hoffenheim's up 2-0 in the first half, it takes the stress off a bit. You get to sit back and just root for the other team. But I've got no problem with 2 units on this one.
Thursday, we got some great Europa League action once again. Glasgow Rangers are in action against Malmo. There's a great game in Amsterdam. Ajax Amsterdam against Besiktas, which should be absolutely brilliant. I'm also looking forward to that game, Frankfurt against Victoria Pilsen, because Frankfurt are a dangerous team this season. We look at Lyon against Olympiacos. Lyon, obviously, desperately disappointing defeat against Marseille. Most recently, more on that a little bit later on in the show. Roma against Athletic Club Bilbao should be an absolute banger of a game to look forward to as well. And in Spain, of course, because there's a game every single day of the week for 365 days of the year. Espanyol against Villarreal, Las Palmas against Real Betis, and we do see Atletico Madrid against Celta Vigo. Celta Vigo are one of my favorite teams this year, Buckets. You got to start looking at them more. They score every game. They're crazy. They don't care about conceding goals. They try to score more than the opponent. They're a fun team to bet on. But where are you going for Thursday? Are you going back to Europa League?
I am going to stick with Europa League, but I'm going to keep an eye on that Celta Vigo match because maybe we do an extra little social video with Coco on TikTok to give out what sounds like an over on that match. But I'm all about this game, Lyon versus Olympiacos, because right now, Lyon are the favorites, and I don't think Lyon could beat me, IPJ, and Jeff if we put on the boots and started playing. They just look horrendous. I don't know what's happening to this Lyon side. They've got good talent, they've got good players, but they played a man up for 90 minutes and conceded 3 goals and lost to Marseille, which we'll talk about later here. But this is just not a team I trust right now to play defense at all. And anytime I see Lyon as a favorite, I'm going to bet both teams to score. I'm going to take the Buckets Classics BTTS, especially when it's minus 105, because Olympiacos is a good side relative, obviously, when you're comparing this to bigger leagues, but one of the consistently best teams in the Super League of Greece. And this is a team that can score pretty much against any of the big dogs. Defense maybe not quite there against some of these better teams, but again, Ian, against Lyon, I just don't think it matters right now. I'm going to keep taking both teams to score until this team decides that they want to be serious and start playing to actually win some of these fixtures.
Yeah, I love the bet because Lyon are just scoring goals and conceding goals. They're crazy. They can't win games, and they're struggling to pick up points right now. Olympiacos coming off the back of their first defeat of the season against Aris Thessaloniki, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But they're a team that can score goals, and they're always dangerous. I think Jose Mendilibar is their manager. Let me double check on that one. Yeah, he's still manager. Jose Luis Mendilibar. He's been at the club now for 28 matches, 19 wins, only the 5 losses. Very, very good Spanish manager and someone to watch out for. Obviously, in the league play so far this season, they're third in the table. They've won 3 from 5 games, and I mentioned already that was their first defeat. Scored 8, conceded only 3. But in the Europa League, you would expect it to be a little bit different for teams like Olympiacos because they've got to go for it. As you pointed out there, Lyon are an interesting team under American ownership. They've conceded 11 goals. from 5 games so far. And they've scored 6, but they've still got a very good team. And obviously with Lacazette and Orban scoring goals for them, they're a real threat. Maitland-Niles on the right-hand side is another one who's pretty interesting. They've got experience. And here's the thing, Buckets. Remember, they've got European experience in their team that can really help them when it comes to this game against Olympiacos. So they're going to need to get off to a good start. And obviously, at home, they've been pretty interesting this season so far. You saw that game and that result against Marseille. They have only won one. They've lost 2. They've scored 6 from 3 games at home in league play and conceded 8. So that bodes well for you, Buckets. What do you think is wrong with Lyon? Because you watched that game. That was pretty interesting.
That was very interesting. I think it's just a lack of confidence right now because you're seeing a lot of poor results in a row dating back to last year where they were struggling for a bit of the season too. It's just not a team that is playing to win right now. It looks like a team that is playing not to lose. You cannot play for 90 minutes a man up and sit back and take 50 minutes to really produce any decent chance. They scored in the 53rd minute, but they should have had 2 or 3 in the first half. They were knocking on the door for 45 minutes and just couldn't do anything. I don't know if it's confidence. I don't really know what's going on, Ian, but to me, it's just bizarre. It's hard to watch right now.
It was pretty good for you, though, because you cashed a very nice ticket. Because at one point, as you can see right there, Leonardo Belerde picking up 2 yellow cards in the space of 5 minutes, chasing a record that was set in the Bundesliga by Ian Paul Joy. That's pretty impressive right there, a 5-minute red card. But it left you hanging. It left the loyal listeners really nervous about hitting your ticket because you were over 1.5 team total for Marseille. And as you can see, they left it late to cash your ticket, but pretty much the goal crazy went mad in the final 10 minutes of this game.
Yeah, no, it really did. And I just want to say that I saw a great tweet, Ian. I'll have to find it for Jeff. But it said Bellardi's pulling the IPJ. He's got a hot date in 15 minutes and had to find an excuse to get out of there. So he did what he had to do. But I do want to remind everyone in a game like this, even when there's red cards early, even when we're frustrated, even though betting can be a bit annoying, you got to wait until the final whistle. Because I saw many a loyal listener tweeting saying, Buckets, this Marseille team is shit. Why would they do that? Oh, terrible bet. I'm down, blah, 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 only to 90 minutes later see tweet deleted by author. Just wait until the final whistle because crazier things have happened in football, and we continue to find these stoppage time cashes for our viewers.
Yeah, Marseille continue to be one of those golden bets the Buckets has been talking about right now. They're second in the table right now. They have not lost domestically. They've scored 15 goals from 5 games, which is only 2 behind PSG at the top of the table. And then, of course, they are a team that you should be worried about. 3 against Lyon, 2 against Nice, 3 against Toulouse, 2 against Rams, 5 against Brest to start the season. Buckets' golden bet might be up there alongside Bayern Munich for over 1.5 team total for a while. And just to point out, Buckets, they've got Strasbourg away from home, which is a very good game coming up next Sunday. Let's go to your best bet for Friday and have a quick look at the games because Dortmund are in action against Bochum, Milan against Lecce, PSG against Rennes, and Real Valladolid against Mallorca. Buckets, where are you going on Friday?
Well, speaking of golden bets, IPJ, I'd like to introduce everyone to one of my favorite teams to bet on. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll need to look right now because you should know what this means. Oh, yeah. I'm looking at the matchup between Estoril Praia taking on Sporting, and I'm going with the, yeah, IPJ's doing it right. I'm doing. Man, I love Gyökeres so much. I'm going with not him to score, although you probably should because he's doing it every single time, multiple times a game. But I'm taking over 1.5 in the first half. That's currently priced in at plus 120. Right now, this Sporting side, they're not playing to win. They're playing to embarrass their opponents. This is a team that if they're up 2-0 at halftime, their manager is saying, why are we not up 3 or 4 or 5? 6 games played, 22 goals scored, only 2 allowed. This bet has hit now in 3 matches straight for Sporting, and the fact that it's plus 120 against an Estoril side that is not the worst defensively, but it doesn't matter if you're not bad defensively. When you play Sporting, when you play Pedro Goncalves, Trincao, and Gyökeres up front, they are going to run you over, and there's nothing you can do to stop this. Take over 1.5 at the first half at plus 120. Take Gyökeres' goal score if it is ever playable, and play Goncalves to score or assist if that is playable. Because the front 3 for Sporting right now, Ian, are producing some of the most exciting soccer, not only in all of Europe, but in all of the world from the betting and viewing perspective.
Can we just show that image one more time of Gyökeres? It's fucking scary, right? That celebration is one of the more epic celebrations I think I've ever seen, where he holds up the mask. I mean, it's like the reverse Batman, right? It's just brilliant. But let's talk about his true quality right now. Obviously, his age, still 26 years old. He's got a lot to offer. People don't know this, but he's actually from Sweden. But his goal scoring so far, 10 goals scored from the 6 matches played in Liga Pro in Portugal. And he's been pretty epic. Have a look at his career history, Buckets. And If you look at the goals he scored at Sporting, 54 goals in 58 games since he's arrived at the club. What impresses you most about him? And obviously, when you have a player as hot as him, what should people be looking out for goal scoring props, for shots on target props?
You should be looking at just everything for Gyökeres right now, because not only is he the team's best goal scorer, but he's also taking the shots from the spot. We always want to target players that are on penalty kick duty because it's just another opportunity to get that goal, especially when you're a better offensive team that teams have to foul to try to slow down. But look at his shot on targets, look at his goal scoring, and also look at his assists right now, because he is sitting side by side with some of the better other attackers in Portugal. And the front three for this team are all capable of scoring from pretty much anywhere. So I just want to bet on everything Gyökeres. And I feel like, Ian, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here, this is probably the last time we're going to see him in Portugal at the end of the season, because with the last 2 years he's had, eventually he's going to go to the Prem or he's going to go to Serie A or La Liga. So we have to take advantage of these lines while we can, because no matter how good he is, we're probably going to see a fall off next season just as he adjusts to a new style of play. But right now is where you can make your money on a player like this.
Yeah, it simply doesn't lie when you look at how he has really gone about his career. Jeff, put up his history once again, his senior career history. Obviously, I mentioned the 54 in 58 games, which is outstanding. At Coventry City, 40 goals in 97 games, and that's what led to Sporting to spend the money to take him to Portugal. He obviously scored 3 in 19 before that while he was on loan there. But I don't know if you noticed this, Bucket. Go down in between his time at Brighton. Do you see a special club in there?
I had no idea he played at St. Pauli.
Yeah, he did. He was on loan at St. Pauli and scored 7 goals in 28 games. And unfortunately, it was the time when FC St. Pauli were basically just trying to get goal scorers in. We were always taking players on loan. We created a bit of a star there, and obviously he went out on loan elsewhere. And in Coventry, he really made his name for himself. But here's the deal about Gyökeres. This guy has a 100 million euro price tag in his contract. So someone has to spend 100 million to get him. But the only way it's going to work is if he continues to score goals on the European stage. You can do it in Portugal domestically. I totally understand that, and I totally respect that. I mean, his goals already this season have been absolutely insane. I mean, sensational, really, when you look at it. But his stats simply don't lie when it comes to Champions League as well. He's got his goal in one match. If he keeps on scoring a goal per game average, you're looking at like Erling Haaland status there. Someone's going to spend 100 million. But here's my question to you, Buckets. Where would he fit? Which club would be the perfect fit for him to take the next step in his career? Remember, he's 26. He's in his prime. The next step in his career, but also gives him a chance to win.
I don't like saying this because this is the club that my brother supports very passionately, but my brother is a Gunners fan, an Arsenal fan, and he's been saying for years now, we need a more healthy, fit, confident number 9. And Gyökeres, I think, would fit really well with the midfield that Arsenal have if he does make a jump to the Prem. The last thing I want to see with a player like Gyökeres is see a Julian Alvarez type of situation where he goes and plays backup backup behind Haaland. If he goes to City, we'd have one of the best strikers on the planet sitting on the bench and being a super sub. I want to see him at a place to where he's playing 90 minutes, he's leading the charge, and I don't like it, but Ian, I think Arsenal might be a decent fit for him.
Arsenal seems like it could be the best fit for him. 100 million might be a little bit steep, but at the same time, 100 million might be the difference between winning the Premier League title and not winning the Premier League title, between challenging for the Champions League and not challenging for the Champions League. We obviously saw what happened this past weekend with Manchester City and Arsenal. Crazy game that was. Absolutely loved every single minute of it. Here's my deal. What would you do? Would you swap out Harry Kane for Gyökeres at Bayern Munich?
I don't want to get yelled at by all the Bayern Munich fans, but I would. I would. And I hate saying that considering Bayern Munich has scored 20 goals in their last 3 games, and Harry Kane has been the Golden Boot winner last season and definitely will this season. But I feel like any good striker will fit in the Bayern system and will win the Golden Boot with the team that they have around them. I'm a Gyökeres fanboy, so there's a bias there for sure. But I'd love to see him in Munich.
You swap out Harry Kane, send Harry Kane off to Portugal to enjoy his retirement over there on the beach. That's fine. And then you bring in Gyökeres at his age, 26. You've got 5 years advantage because Kane's 31, slowing down right now. Don't care whether you like it or not. He's slowing down, but the goals are not slowing down. The guy's just fucking on fire right now. He scored 54 goals in 51 games. But if you throw Gyökeres into that Bayern Munich lineup, I can imagine the numbers are going to be very similar because that guy is an absolute killer. And I think he fits perfectly with the way Bayern want to play. He's a different player from Harry Kane, but you know who he reminds me of?
Lewandowski?
Lewandowski. He
Yeah.
reminds me exactly. His movement, the way his style, everything about him reminds me of Lewandowski. He's unbelievable. All right, let's go to Saturday's games in the Bundesliga. We've got a full slate of games, including FC St. Pauli with a trip to Freiburg. We've got a big one, Leipzig against Augsburg. Leipzig have been pretty struggling recently, getting a 0-0 against FC St. Pauli. First point on the board for the mighty Brown Wise boys. But the big one, of course, is at the bottom of your screen right there. Bayern Munich against the champions Leverkusen. I'm intrigued, Buckets, to hear your opinion on that one before I go through the rest of the schedule. Don't move here, Jeff. Stay right here. Bayern Munich, Leverkusen, Buckets, your thoughts?
Well, you're going to get my thoughts because that is where my best bet is for this fixture. So do you want me to talk about that best bet now or wait until we go through everything?
Go straight into it, baby.
I'm going straight into it. This is another golden bet for me. I'm finding the themes, the trends. I'm finding the value here for everyone. Bayern Munich versus Leverkusen over 1.5 goals in the first half. Ian, it's minus 105. Minus 105 for a Bayern Munich team playing at home under Vincent Kompany in a revenge spot. Because let's not forget that not only did Leverkusen take the title away from Bayern Munich last season, they beat Bayern Munich 3-0 the last time they played. One of the most embarrassing losses we've seen domestically for Bayern Munich since who was it? Gladbach beat us 5-0 in the Pokal Cup 2 years ago. This is a team that is out for blood right now. 20 goals scored in 3 games. However, it's Bayern Munich, so they're probably going to concede as well here. They're a type of team that likes that 9-2 win over Zagreb, that usually likes to win 3-1, 4-1, 5-1. So I wouldn't be shocked if Leverkusen scores in the first half here. But the fact that I can play just the match total over 1.5 in the first half at minus 105 for two of the best attacking teams right now in all of Germany, Ian, all day. All day, baby.
Can you give me a scoreline prediction for that one, please?
I can, because I am going to bet this correct score, currently priced at plus 1,800. Bayern Munich 4, Bayer Leverkusen 2, and it'll be Florian Wirtz picking up a brace to get the 2 goals that Leverkusen grabbed.
Dude, what a game. What an unbelievable game to look forward to. Obviously, Leverkusen, the champions from last season. And last season didn't lie to us in the Bundesliga. Leverkusen were the better side, 90 points. They never lost a single game all of last season. They won 28 from 34. They drew 6, and they scored 89 goals, which was a hell of a lot more than the 78 that Stuttgart scored. And just a few less than what Bayern scored, which was 94. Bayern obviously conceded 45, which was their biggest problem. Leverkusen conceded 24. But Leverkusen this season defensively, not better, worse defensively. They've already conceded 9 goals from 4 games, where Bayern's defense has got better, conceding only 3 goals from the 4 games. Bayern offense, 16 goals. Leverkusen offense, 13 goals. These late goals have got to stop from Leverkusen. I don't know how the hell they keep scoring these late goals. There's something about that, right?
No, it's something that's not of this world, Ian. I don't know what kind of deal Xabi Alonso has to make these things happen, but as soon as I saw that Wolfsburg red, I said, shit, it's coming. That goal is coming here any minute now, and it did for like the 15th time in the past year.
Here's a few stats to back Buckets up, obviously, with his bet as well. Goals per game on average. Bayern Munich so far, 4 goals per game on average. They have, of course, won 4 games. And then Leverkusen, 3.25 on average goals per game. Goals conceded per game, Bayern 0.75. Leverkusen are conceding 2.25 goals per game so far on the season. And if you look at the biggest wins for Bayern Munich, they have obviously won 6 goals to 1 against Holstein Kiel. And the biggest win for Leverkusen was 4-1 against Hoffenheim. That was the margin of victory, obviously. Their biggest loss was a 3-2 loss against Leipzig at home. I still think Leverkusen are vulnerable. I still don't think Leverkusen finish second. But Buckets, not team total. This time it's game total over 1.5. What was the line?
The line is minus 105. If you take Bayern 1.5 in the first half, plus 200. So I'm going to throw out that. I'm going to sprinkle that as well. Probably half unit on that and playing a fully. Ian, I might play over 2.5 team total. I don't know. Something about Vincent Kompany's Bayern Munich has me feeling some type of way right now. But play it safe for a full unit. Have some fun with the long shot sprinkles.
Here's a look at some of the other fixtures in the English Premier League. There's a big one, Newcastle against Manchester City to look forward to. Arsenal against Leicester, both of those fighting at the top of the table right now. Everton against Crystal Palace at the bottom of the table. Nottingham Forest against Fulham. Liverpool with a difficult trip to Wolves. We go over to Italy where Udinese are taking on Inter, who just lost the Milan derby. Juventus against Genoa. Bologna against Atalanta. And then we've got Spanish La Liga also in action. Getafe Deportivo Alaves. Rayo Vallecano Leganés. And then we see Barcelona in action against Osasuna. But the big one one there is, of course, Real Sociedad against Valencia. But the biggest game of the day on Saturday is the New York Derby. New York Red Bull taking on NYCFC Buckets. It's a big game for both clubs. NYCFC can't buy a victory right now. They did get a last-minute goal, and that boosts your confidence going into a big game against New York Red Bull. Do you favor anyone in this game, Buckets?
I favor not going anywhere near this game. I'm not giving a single dollar to either of these teams because I went back and checked. The team that has cost me the most money in MLS this season, the most units, is not NYCFC. It's actually the New York Red Bulls. So for me, I hope your boys win 35-0. But you could not, if you gave me $1,000 and told me to place a bet on this, I'd just give it back to you and say, no, I can't.
All right, let's get into Sunday's bet. Have a look at Germany. Bundesliga Holstein Kiel against Frankfurt. Hoffenheim against Werder Bremen. Over in the English Premier League, there's some big games, and the biggest one being Manchester United against Tottenham. Ipswich against Aston Villa will be a tasty game as well. The Spanish La Liga, 365 days a year. Unbelievable. Celta Vigo against Girona. That one should be a goal fest for me. And then we've got the big one at the bottom of the picture right there. Atletico Madrid against Real Madrid in the Madrid Derby. Buckets on Sunday. Where are you going?
Oh, baby, it is time, IPJ, for the golden bet because on Sunday, Marseille plays again. So you know damn well where I'm going because the books had the audacity to give us Marseille over 1.5 team total at minus 110 against Racing Strasbourg. It makes zero sense. I wish I was one of those weirdos on Twitter who goes, "This is my whale lock of the year. Put your mortgage on this. I took out a second loan from the bank." I want to do that, but we're betting responsibly, so we can't. But I will tell everyone right now, I am making this one my favorite play of the entire show. I am putting 2 units on this wager because Marseille, it just doesn't matter. It legitimately does not matter who they play. As IPJ mentioned, they've scored at least 2 in every fixture so far this season. 15 goals scored over 5 matches. Meanwhile, Strasbourg, not a bad team by any means. They love themselves a draw, but they've conceded 10 in 5 matches. They're averaging conceding 2 goals per game against teams way worse than Marseille. So this is a matchup to where I probably will ladder Marseille up to 3 or 4 goals, but that 1.5 team total being playable in this fixture, Ian, it just doesn't make sense. And I do think eventually the books will catch on. So this might be our last week to really slam a playable line with this Marseille side.
Yeah, Marseille averaging 3.0 goals per game on average. Strasbourg, 2.2 goals per game on average. Goal scoring, goals conceded 2.0 for Strasbourg. And of course, that bodes well for Buckets. 1.2 conceded goals per game on average for Marseille. Some big victories already. Strasbourg yet to have a clean sheet, which also bodes well for Buckets. And Marseille with that 1 clean sheet so far on the campaign. Strasbourg, I will say this though, Buckets, they do have a very good coach, Liam Rossigner. He's an English guy who's in charge of the club. He's only been there for 5 games. Just a 1 victory, 3 draws, 1 loss. This game could go anywhere. I'm saying 3-3 in that game. I'm just going to say it right now.
No, I love it. Both teams to score in over 2.5 was going to be my look because I thought Marseille team total wouldn't be playable. But Strasbourg scores goals, and they score them quickly. If this is 1-1 or 2-2 at halftime, not surprised in the slightest.
Hey, Buckets, let's give a shout out to the football betting community because it's not just the loyal listeners out there who are pretty awesome. It's also the people who create content around sports betting and betting content in general. In my opinion, what I see from other sports is that there's a community that's battling against each other for the headlines. They're battling against each other for obviously trying to make money. They're trying to be cooler than the other ones. Not the soccer betting community. What I'm noticing is that the soccer betting community is really coming together. People out there are making really good content. They're giving great information out there, obviously having some good hits. And listen, understandably so, it's not easy to get hits. It's not easy to get wins. It's very difficult to be able to do that. But I do recognize there's a sense of community when it comes to the soccer betting space. And I think at some point, Buckets, we should do like a big chat on like Twitter, X, or whatever it's called, where we get all of the betting content creators together and maybe just have a discussion, like, and let everybody listen to how we create, what we're looking for, and give everybody out there a bit of an idea and an insight as to what we see when we're looking at picking bets and obviously what we're seeing when we're watching games as well. What do you think about that?
I absolutely love that. And I have no problem helping spearheading that because I'm friends with a lot of the content creators in the soccer space specifically. And as you mentioned, it's just different. I don't feel like I'm competing against anyone. If I see a bet I like, I will quote tweet them and say, "Hey, this is a great line. We should all be betting that." And people do the same for me. We're not fighting. I'm not trying to steal any. No, it just we work together. And I think that's a great idea. And I know many a content creator that would love to be a part of a think tank or whatever you want to call it, just coming together and having a chat.
Maybe we do that on stoppage time, though. How about if we just like made producer Jess fucking life hell and we had like 8 creators on one show, all on like different, like everyone just jumping in, having like a 30-minute discussion about the betting space. What about that?
I absolutely love that, and we could make it even difficult for Jeff. I'm friends with people who are in different countries that do sports betting content, so we'll make sure he's doing the Spanish subtitles and the Japanese subtitles. We'll really just the goal is not to have a discussion; it's to make Jeff's life hell. I love this.
Make sure you go follow Jeff on his OnlyFans page right about now. Buckets, great stuff as always. Looking forward to this next week upcoming. We will be posting the link to the show every single day. Let's see if we can continue to grow the subscribers as much as possible. Thank you to loyal listeners out there for following us across all of our social media platforms. We are available on TikTok. You'll see daily messages out there. On Instagram, Instagram Reels are very active right now. You see me and Buckets also active on there as well. Twitter, X, you will be able to catch myself and Buckets separately. We're very active on there. You can go subscribe to us on YouTube. Of course, we love the subscriptions. I personally love all the fucking comments. I'm going to try and bring some comments back on the next episode of the show so that everybody out there can have their say as well. So if you've got something interesting to say, drop a comment in the show. And please let us know how you feel and think and love about the show. If something you don't like, let us know as well. At the same time, Buckets is available on Dub Club. I am also available on Dub Club. It is a subscription service. You can go and pay a few bucks and follow me and Buckets and get our picks every single day. I'll put 2 to 3 out there. Buckets will put 2 to 23 out there every single day. So please make sure you're out there betting responsibly. And if you're doing so, please make sure you absolutely have it!